But just because the majority of experiences aren't like mine and they feel safe and fine and don't think twice about it, like it doesn't mean that mine should be silenced. And it definitely doesn't mean that other people aren't experiencing something similar.
Welcome to Sensitive Stories. This episode is for educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for treatment with a mental health or medical professional. Let's dive in.
Hello, Sarita. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be back.
Yes. And listeners might remember you. You were on about a year ago, episode 30. We talked about big emotions and your debut children's book, Pop Out Loud. But now you have a second book, which is
Yes.
exciting. Pop Out Loud First Day of Soccer. So we're
Yes.
going to get into that a little bit.
Yay.
Yay, I know. Just to start off, if we can start talking about the topics in the book or, the stories behind why you wrote these books, what kinds of social pressures do highly sensitive kids typically face? What do you see?
Well, we live in such a loud world. And I think that right from the beginning, for all children, as soon as they're babies, there is a pressure to grow up to be a resilient child, to be confident and social, and that's just a given. And so I feel like young kids are expected to be like this
Hmm.
within the first, couple years of their life. So the pressures are there right from day one. And then with highly sensitive children right now in particular, I feel like one of the main pressures is the expectation to go through a big transition or a new experience with no time to
Yes.
process all of this new sensory input and with no space to authentically express themselves.
Yeah, this is so true. I mean, it starts so early in childhood, and I see it kind of the other end in adults who are still facing this, right? But
Yeah,
that's where it starts is with, you know, when they're really young,
yeah,
even before school sometimes, where, yeah, you're right. It's the pressure to be social, to fit in, to be exactly like all the other kids, to go at the same timeline as everyone else. And yeah, to just be quick. Like, don't take a moment to put your shoes on. Don't linger at the dinner table. Get immediately out of the car as soon as you get to school. It just creates a lot of, I'm just feeling anxiety thinking about it.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, I think most HSPs are natural observers. And I think that is such a profound skill and way of learning. And they're kind of, we are kind of expected to just erase that and jump right in and participate. And I feel like, especially in group settings, that can just be jarring and so overwhelming that it wipes away the ability to learn, to retain anything that you're supposed to pick up on quickly, and even to like be present. And so that's where things start to get complicated because when you are so young and you have the ability to be a sponge and learn so quickly and so much, and it's such a gift, but that right kind of gets taken away from you when you are forced into these overwhelming situations that fit the mold of kind of, others' ideals.
Yeah, so true that the very essence of you as a sensitive person, that observer, that, perceptive, aware person gets pushed to the side because I don't think
Yeah,
there's a lot of value around that.
yeah, yeah. And I feel like the bottom line is that kids are kind of expected to be who they're not in a lot of situations. And that is harmful
Yeah.
because authentic expression, I believe, is what makes the world go round. And I believe if more people were able to authentically express themselves, there would be more of a natural flow state to the whole world. And I genuinely have hope that this there is a movement and an evolution towards this happening, especially with more resources like children's books that talk about big emotions and just more awareness in general about, mental health is as important as physical health right from the beginning. Like we
Yeah.
care about, the sicknesses and the flus that babies get, but we
Right.
have to be thinking mindfully about what's going on, yeah, cognitively and with emotions as well.
Yeah, right. All those pieces of health are so important and such a critical component of growing up, right? You only get to go through those phases one time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, as I'm sure you know, as a
Yeah,
parent.
well, as a parent, that kind of puts like a little bit of pressure,
Yes.
even though you just have to really trust, like if you're giving it, if you believe that you're giving your best, then that's all you can do, and trust that, the lessons that come are going to be valuable for your child and for yourself.
Yeah, I remember learning in school, the good enough parenting approach is good enough, right? You
Yes,
don't
yeah.
have to be perfect. It just takes a little bit of care or presence. You don't have to get it right every moment. So yeah, let's take the pressure
Yes.
down for parents listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if for listeners who maybe have highly sensitive kiddos at home or have highly sensitive kids in their lives, how can we help bring in some acceptance when you don't, these kids don't always fit in as sensitive kids?
Yeah. So I think that really focusing on individualism and that not fitting in is such a gift. And if you can highlight that it's like not fitting in is kind of the point of life. Being who you are
Yes.
is the point of life. And I think that communication, of course, is key, but also being, when it comes to like self-love and sensitivity, being a mirror and just showcasing your own self-love and sensitivity loudly. And I think, I mean, self-love has always been there, but it's more of a newer concept to talk about. And the importance of it is now just being realized. And so I think a lot of people are kind of weary on where to start with self-love. People might not know, do I have self-love? And
Right.
so I think a great place to start there is with just introspection, asking questions about your own emotions, even questioning the good ones. Where are they coming from? Why are they happening? Where are they manifesting in your body? And that, like all the data that you will collect from these kinds of questions will be the foundation of self-love, of cultivating self-love.
Yes.
And then I think by default your children will pick up on this as well.
It's true. Because children are learning from you. They're borrowing your nervous system. They're modeling you. So yeah, loving yourself can teach them how to love themselves.
I mean, I have so much fun dissecting my own emotions and doing it out loud, and then my kids just willingly join in, and now it's like second nature to them. And so yeah, I think it can really become just a natural way of communication in the household if you want it to be.
Oh yeah, if you want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something you do intentionally, right?
Yeah,
Especially,
intentionally.
we've talked about kind of cycle breaking or, creating environments that are different than what you grew up in a lot on the pod. And it's true we have to kind of intentionally create a different culture in our
Hmm.
homes
Hmm.
that is accepting and loving and, embraces imperfection and you can go at your own pace and accept yourself.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
beautiful. Um, can we talk a little bit about the book? And so you mentioned something there, like doing it in front of your kids, right? Modeling that self-love, but also I'm curious about the Pop Out Loud series because Pop Out Loud is really expressing your emotions. Do I have that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, for
Set the
sure.
stage.
So, well, I have a copy here for those who
Oh,
are
perfect.
watching. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so great.
And so the book came out on November 30th,
Mm-hmm.
and my first book, Pop Out Loud, First Day of School, focuses on a little colonel who pops into a popcorn when he experiences big feelings, and that takes place on the first day of school. And it really focuses on introspection and picking up on what those big feelings are. And the second book, Pop Out Loud, First Day of Soccer, follows those themes and also ties in mindfulness and the importance of communication and how at the end of the day, fostering self love just adds to self expression
Mm,
and is a form of self care. And all of these things are so additive
mm.
to our own self worth.
Yes.
And it's funny because there's a lot of self involved. And I
Yeah.
know in the past, I think these things were kind of considered selfish because caring for oneself was not something that you did back then.
Yeah.
But now I feel like it's so necessary if you want to be a good parent or a good friend or just a good human in society. Like
Yeah.
we can't give what we don't have. So we have to fuel ourselves with everything that makes sense and feels aligned. And so much of that can be learned and brought about by self expression.
I love that. Can't give what you don't have.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
so true. And you're right, when I grew up, probably when we both grew up, there wasn't that focus on self-care or pouring back into self. It was about being very selfless, which I think is fine to a point, but it gets very detrimental. It gets very harmful.
Yeah, especially for highly sensitive people, I think, because we have the ability to give so much. And so we really need to take care of ourselves. I feel like what we have is it's very powerful. And I feel like we can change the world with
Yes.
our gifts of sensitivity. But um, making sure that we are coming from a charged place. Like
Yeah.
you visualize a battery and like we need to be full and green and like fully charged because otherwise we're either just burning out or giving something that's inauthentic, which will probably lead to, yeah, some sort of burnout.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, when you're more empathetic and you notice what people need and it's hard to overlook what's happening outside of you and turn it back in and take care of yourself. But if you're learning that from the beginning in your early years, you see your parents modeling that, that balance of caring for others but caring for self,
Yeah.
that you just plant that seed and it stays with
Exactly.
you.
Yes, no, for sure. And it's my hope that there are more kind of adults and not just the parents of highly sensitive children, but more adults in the areas like school and on the sports field that children can reach out to in the middle of what might feel like a high pressure situation. And I think that, the answer isn't always black or white. Like, it's not, okay, this is making me uncomfortable, so I'm just not going to do it. It's like, okay, this is making me uncomfortable. How can I get help in this moment?
Yeah.
And if there is somebody like a coach figure or a teacher who can provide that empathy and relatability in the moment and kind of just break down what might feel like an anxious moment and normalize it, then I think that
Yeah.
can be so priceless and powerful.
Hmm. Yeah, just think what my life would have been like if I wasn't so worried about being too much
Yeah.
or my feelings being too big or messy, and I would have said, "Hey, I'm feeling this and I need some help." That would have been a game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think in sports in particular, like I was drawn to write my second book about soccer because sports traditionally don't have, like, they're obviously so much about physical health. There's not much of a focus on the mental health until now. And we're starting to see the need for it in, in the big spaces like the NHL or like the
Yes.
Olympics and how important mental health really is. And I think it goes all the way back to PE class in grade one. And so I definitely, I think bridging yeah, the mental and the physical health fields is
Hmm.
so important and will be quite a game changer.
Yeah, it would be. When you said PE, I just had like a cringe.
Oh, yeah. I know.
I
That's gonna be in my mind forever too.
I'm curious for you because for me as an HSP in gym class, the intensity was there, the social pressure was there. It was very overwhelming, overstimulating for me. Was it the same for you?
Exactly the same. I think that is probably my first defining moment of feeling like not just completely isolated, but like a sense of danger and as a human and just like something is not right. Like I don't feel like I belong here. And it was so like that's such a big, bold statement around like a gym class in grade one. Like my son is in grade one now, and I
Right.
could not imagine him experiencing like, you know, a dark emotion like that. And I don't think that anyone that age has to or, you know, should. So yeah, I think there's things that we all can be doing about that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was dangerous. I just think about going to school, elementary school in the 80s. It literally was dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
Like, not a lot of regulation happening.
Right. Yeah.
So, I don't think that's an outrageous statement. I think it's a very true statement.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so interesting because we could all be at the same event watching with the same lighting, and every single person there will have a completely different experience. But just because the majority of experiences aren't like mine and don't, and they feel safe and fine and don't think twice about it, like doesn't mean that mine should be silenced. And it definitely doesn't mean that other people aren't experiencing something similar. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that because it's so true. We think we have to mold to what everyone else is experiencing, or if we're not experiencing what they are, there's something wrong with us, and it's not true.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many people are in the room. There's 10 people in the room, there's 10 different experiences,
Yeah. Yeah.
and all are valid.
Exactly. And I think also as HSPs, we understand that because we were forced to learn that other people clearly feel and experience the world differently than us. And I think there's a big group of people who don't understand that there are different perspectives and different realities. And like that's kind of one of the biggest problems, you know, in the world, probably.
Yeah, absolutely true, right? That misunderstanding and not making space for difference and not seeing the
Hmm.
value in it. Yeah. It's like you're, by writing these books, you're normalizing the sensitive experience for kids, you're showing them a pathway. You said something just a bit ago about, we have to change it. Like, I'm just imagining that little 5-year old or 6-year old in a gym class or on recess. What can parents do to help them feel a little bit more safe or secure? Or,
Right. Yes.
yeah, what does that look
Well,
like?
yeah, that's right, because it's impossible to put or to control like which situations our kids are always going to be in. They're not always going to feel safe, even though that is like a hard concept to come to terms with. It's part of life. And so I think that even if their external environment is not perfect or ideal, we can teach them to foster one that is. That's, sorry, we can teach them to foster an internal one that is.
Mm.
And so the tools of building self-worth and self-love will help do that. And same with allowing a safe space for self-expression, no matter how big those emotions are. And then, you know, having just an open, continuous conversation about those big emotions. And all of these elements will build up such a secure inner state that it's going to be less likely that they feel unsafe in an external environment. And if they do, they'll probably start to be able to make sense of, okay, I'm different, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Or, okay, like this is unsafe, but that might just mean it's not for me. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you build that internal foundation, things outside are not as scary.
It's true. Or
Mhm.
you are able to just surrender to them more.
Mhm.
And then as an adult, like learn from them. And of course, there are so many tools as an adult that I have now,
Yeah.
that I wish I could just pass right on to my children. And I can't because they are not there yet. But
Mhm.
um, really kind of getting on their level. And that's something that I feel like I have a gift in, is just seeing the eyes, like, or seeing the world through their eyes. And I hope that other HSPs might feel the same because we have that ability to be quite empathetic. And so, yeah, getting onto their level and bringing connection through relatability,
Mhm.
um, I think is really, really useful, and that's enough. Like we don't have to pass on um, the big tools that we've learned, you know,
Yeah.
30 years later, but
Right.
we can set them up to develop them themselves.
Yeah, you can plant those seeds even if the tools you're using uh, aren't appropriate for them yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You said, connection through relatability. Can you give me an example of that? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, I guess just because I have such vivid memories of grade one.
Yeah.
So I can dive right back into my childhood and I can physically feel so many feelings, of very specific experiences. But if you can't do that, then I think it's okay to think about your own feelings day to day and say like, oh, I was at the grocery store and this weird situation happened, and it reminds me of like when you were talking to me about being at school and like that weird situation happened, and like how did that make you feel? Oh yeah, me too. Like, and I think normalizing conversations like that is really powerful because then when my kids are at school and those things are happening, they can start making mental notes about what they want to come home and talk about to me. And I think relatability is, it seems like such a basic word, but it's so powerful because that feeling of connection, especially if you are the one who typically feels more isolated, it's just such a green flag. And it's just like almost becomes something tangible that you want to hold on to or bottle up. And so, yeah, I think just anywhere you can bring in relatability really builds a foundation of trust and security.
Yeah, it's so true that when you're able to put yourself in your child's shoes, whether it's because you have a direct memory of that time or I like that you said, find a situation in present day that you could then connect the dots back to their experience. Because that is so normalizing for a child to hear, me too, you're not alone, there's nothing wrong with you. I feel this way too sometimes. It's like, oh, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
makes such a difference and it's lifelong.
Exactly. Yes. Like, um, I think also when we were children, there was probably this kind of like picture painted that adults kind of, grew up and had it all together and had two emotions, like happy or sad.
Yep.
Just went to work and like that was it. More of like a robotic feel. But now kind of showing our kids that, you don't have to chase happiness. You don't have to run and panic from fear and sadness. Like you can surrender, you can accept feelings like nervousness. And when you do so, that makes room for better feelings to come in. But just normalizing the ebb and flow of feelings, of what they are, of the size of them, I think that is like a life skill.
Oh, it's a big life skill. Just to be with your emotions and not
Yeah.
try to control them or put them aside. It's like, oh yeah, you can have all of these complex emotions and it's okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I love that. So throughout this process, it seems like you've learned quite a bit. We talked about this a little bit in the first book, just about yourself and probably, I imagine, your parenting. So with this second book, what have been the takeaways for you?
Okay, well, yeah, similar to what we were just saying, I feel like overall the process has really instilled in me that the messy chaos can coexist with the magic. And I used to be such an all or nothing person, like black or white. And anytime I was in a period of darker kind of depression, I would seriously panic and try to escape. And I had experienced, of course, the beautiful highs of, yeah, happiness and joy that highly sensitive people are lucky enough to feel. And so I would just try to make it my mission to exist, to run to that state and fully exist in it. And just in the process of becoming an author while being a mom has just really taught me how to let both sides coexist, and that, that magical happiness is probably so meaningful because of the darker, messy chaos. And so I'm really grateful for that. But my writing the second book in particular has taught me how important it is for highly sensitive people to live life on our own terms unapologetically.
Yes.
Like that is so extremely important. And when I was launching my first book, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was trying to be, someone I'm not. I was trying to become what society thought of as a successful children's book author. And
Right.
I don't know why, because I was like the master of just self awareness and staying true to myself. And yet, because I was jumping into this whole new world, I kind of thought, oh, that has to come with reinvention. But actually, the whole reason that I became a children's book author was because I felt so called to like my childlike self, and
Mm.
that's who I always was somebody who was very sensitive and enjoyed being by themselves and enjoyed the quiet and imagination and not, following the trends. And so
Mm.
in that process, in the process of launching my first book, I became really burnt out, and I did not like that version of myself. I was very irritable. I wasn't sleeping. I was not a good mom. I didn't feel like
Mm.
a good partner. And so there was a point that I reached where I kind of felt like I had robbed myself of what could have been an amazing experience launching my first book. But because I was saying yes to all of this, like social networking and a book reading at a bookstore, which is something that you would not think an author would be uncomfortable with,
Mm.
it really, yeah, it burnt me out. And so I had to make an intentional point to do some reflecting, because I was asking myself, is this really worth it?
Mm. Mhm.
And when I got to the point of self-reflection before writing my second book, I, yeah, I realized that I was trying to be someone that I'm not. And I made a promise with myself that I'm going to do things my way this time, because, who was making me go in that direction that felt misaligned? And the answer was me. Like I was
Yeah.
doing it. And I think that we sometimes feel like society is this governing force, but it's actually just existence. And we subconsciously pick up on what we think we should be doing, even if it's not directly told to us.
Mhm.
So it's required a lot of mindfulness, but this time around, I have just been making sure anything I agree to is a full body yes. And if it's not, then it's a no.
Mm.
And I have, yeah, I've just been really, focusing on what feels right, doing things my way. And it was somewhere in that point of self-reflection and working on my second book where I came across your Instagram post. And it
What
said,
people
think is best for you is only best for them.
Yeah.
And you need to give yourself permission to live your life unapologetically. And then,
Yeah.
so that just was kind of like exactly what I needed to hear from someone I respect so much. And I really carried that with me through my whole journey in writing this second book. And I'm really, yeah, excited to have it out now.
Yeah, it's exciting to see you follow your own path through it because it's true when we haven't done something before, we tend to follow the template that other people are using, not realizing it's not a good fit. And often we don't know until we've gone through it and realize, oh, this is too much, or
Hmm.
this doesn't feel right. And yeah, I love that you're embracing doing it your way because there are so many
Yes.
ways to do it.
Yes, there's infinite ways to do it, and it's the same with parenting. And parenting is it's much like, writing a book. They're deeply personal and challenging. But yeah, I think that just not doing it your way can be quite harmful. It can be harmful for your kids. You have to really get to know yourself, and that's where the introspection comes in. And then when you do know yourself, you can look for those signs of what does a full body yes feel like,
Yeah.
and then that all just kind of leads to more of a flow state than yeah, than anything else.
I love it. Yeah, it should be a full yeah. I'm curious for you what a full body yes. Is there
Yeah.
a sensation or an image that you have when that's present?
It's very physical for me, and I think I'm not sure if I would have been able to decipher what a full body yes is like years ago before I did a lot of inner work because I was more impulsive before, and I think I acted more out of fear and what felt safer. And now I typically can just, even if I'm not, in a quiet space, I can kind of tune inward and quiet my body. And I have a very like calm, it's particularly in my chest, it's a calm sense of peace that almost feels like unattainable in other circumstances. And it just because I've kind of practiced, okay, like I'm looking out for this feeling when when I'm making a decision and something I think feels right. And that feeling continuously shows up time and time again when it feels right. And then, of course, there are full body no's. And so if I ever receive a full body no, I'm also paying attention to that. And then if ever like a small piece of that no shows up in, daily life or daily decisions, I'm always mindful of that as well.
Mm. So even a little bit of a no, is that turned into a full no?
It depends on the magnitude of the
Uh,
decision, but like honestly, yes, like usually that's how I've been trying to be quite intuitive during this writing process in particular and the self-publishing process and the launch. And so um it's it's worked out that way so far. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, this is just a great metaphor for anything in life, right? As an HSP of checking in with your gut, taking time to
Hmm.
listen inward, being careful not to get caught up in just mimicking what everyone else is doing. Although
Hmm.
I know that can be, like you're saying, it's a process
Hmm.
of turning back inward and getting to know yourself again. Um, yeah, but it's such a good anchor point,
Hmm.
taking care of
Yes.
yourself and
Yeah.
embodying that self love. Like, I'm going to do what feels right for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
most of the
then,
time.
yeah, sometimes if that ever feels like too self-righteous or something, then I'm like, okay, but like, then what? Like I'm not, no one is being harmed in the process of saying yes to myself. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think just if you're able to listen to your gut, that is such a strong and powerful thing. And if you're still confused on what a gut feeling is versus anxiety, there are definitely ways to learn and learn
Hmm.
to tune into your body.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like this process of writing not just one but two books now, it's really embracing the layers, the complexities, the messiness with the magic, and knowing that both are okay. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I love that. Sarita, I'm wondering if there's any final messages you want to share with listeners.
Yeah. When it comes to sensitivity, I would say incorporate it into your everyday life. If you can do that, then it's going to start to fuel you. If you consider yourself a highly sensitive person and you're either honoring or just somehow leaning into sensitivity every day, it's going to start feeling more and more natural to you. It's going to fuel you more, and it's going to look different for everyone. It could be a mindfulness walk, or researching being highly sensitive, or sitting down with your kids and reading a book about imagination and emotions. Or it could be skipping doing the dishes one night and sitting down with your coziest blanket, watching a show with your cats and popcorn, and hopefully it's a show that makes you feel. And then, yeah, just like leaning into those moments can be so powerful, and it's such a simple thing. Um, but if you do it intentionally, it can really build that sense of self along with fostering sensitivity in general as a strength.
I love that. Yeah, welcoming in, inviting your sensitivity to be part of your everyday life, not to push it aside. And yeah, it can show up in subtle ways. Also, I love the idea of bringing your kids into the mix. Like, because it can be a family affair. Like, let's
A hundred
everybody
percent.
take care of
Yeah.
ourselves. Yeah, that's a really beautiful reminder. I think we are often fighting it. It's like, no, let's learn a little bit about it. Let's follow that impulse to curl up on the couch and do the dishes in the morning, right? If that's where your energy's at. And let there be
Definitely.
fluidity there.
Exactly, exactly. It does take a little bit of mindfulness, but yeah, once it becomes a practice, it will start to become more natural, and then it will
Yeah.
become really innate. So yeah.
Yeah, just with anything.
Hmm.
I'm curious, you said sit on the couch with popcorn. Is that one of your favorite snacks?
Yes. Yeah. I'm very passionate about popcorn.
Oh, I love that. And I love that makes sense why the books are following kernels.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
no,
so cute.
it felt that authentic to me for
I
sure.
love
And
that.
yeah.
That I love that because it's there's that underlying subtle meaning in the book as
Exactly.
well, which I think
Yes.
is really lovely. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this. I will obviously share your books in the show notes on with your website, your social media. Where can listeners find your new book or both of your books if they want to read
Yeah.
them?
So they're available online on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, on Indigo, and at my website, www.saritaimagine.com.
Great.
Yeah, thank you so
Perfect.
much. I'm so excited that we got to do this.
Yeah, same. Thank you, Sarita.